right, welcome to Module 2.3, how to set up conversion tracking for AdWords. All right, just a quick overview first. I want to show you a few things, sort of give you just some base information. Then I'm going to actually show you how it's done on the SPJ Supply Store. So most important thing from conversion tracking standpoint is Google Analytics conversion tracking does not equal Google AdWords conversion tracking. That's a super important thing to understand. Google Analytics is going to look at your last click. It's going to look at the last path that the person used to get to your website. So for example, if someone sees your brand on Facebook, on a Facebook ad, thinks it's cool, whatever, clicks in the ad, maybe comes to your site, say, oh, that's pretty cool, I'm going to save that for later, or I'm going to just remember this brand. And then 2 days later goes and does a Google search for your brand, finds your website, finds a product, and buys. That sale in Google Analytics is going to be attributed to organic because that person went to Google, did a Google search, found your site, and bought. Okay. AdWords tracking is different. AdWords tracking says, okay, what's the last AdWords click that the person used to get your site within that 30-day window. So in that same example, the person did a search. Now in this case, instead of in the previous example, I used Facebook. In this case, I'm going to use Google. So in this case, they do a Google search, find your ad on Google Shopping. They click, they think about it, they come back a week later by doing a Google search for your brand. They find the product, they buy. In Google Analytics, it's going to say, again, that sale came from organic. However, Google Analytics conversion tracking is going to report that it came from Google AdWords, okay? Google AdWords counts the last AdWords click regardless of what they did afterwards, as long as it's within that 30-day period. And you can't extend that, you can't change that 30-day period, but that's the default setting. So it's important to note that Google Analytics numbers will not equal Google AdWords. They will be different because they're using two different sort of methods for tracking. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this with Facebook and other tracking platforms. They aren't apples to apples necessarily. All right, so to set up Google AdWords conversion tracking, here's just a quick screenshot I want to show you. Go to Tools, go to Conversion Actions, you find this tag. Okay, it is a pretty basic tag, but you do have to add some custom code in order to pull in revenue and eliminate repeat visitors. So again, I'm going to show you exactly how this is done, but just from a high level standpoint, I want you to understand analytics does not equal AdWords conversion tracking. AdWords tracking, very, very simple. You can see the tools, you can see the conversion action, see this, but you have to add some specific code. So let's jump right in and show you how that is done. Okay, so here is my AdWords account. What I'm going to do, in this case, I'm just going to go to click conversion tracking, or you can go to tools and hit conversion. So this is the first screen you're going to see. All you have to do is hit conversions. I'm going to do a website conversion. I'm just going to say just online order. You can make it whatever you want, doesn't matter. So now it is important to tell AdWords that you have different values. So in our case, it's going to value based on price. This is the default value. So if you are seeing conversions coming into your AdWords account that have a revenue of only $1, you know that the code that you added to capture that revenue, is incorrect. So count is the next one. Count's a pretty interesting one. It does confuse a lot of people, and historically, people have always left this to every. If someone finds your website, your product via an ad, Google Shopping, Google AdWords ad, they buy, and then they come back a day later, buy again, then they maybe buy 30 days later. Historically, people would attribute all of those sales to that first click. The challenge, though, is in today's ever increasing app marketplace and cart abandonment software and upsell software and cart recovery or comeback email sequence, or et cetera, et cetera. It is it is easy to get duplicate conversions in today's world. So therefore, I am increasingly recommending people change this to one. It is conservative. It is going to be the smallest number possible, but hopefully it'll save you the frustration from potentially seeing duplicate sale numbers in, let's say, for example, AdWords and your email win back sequence. We don't want to count, if you have $100, you ideally you don't want to see that $100 in both locations. You want to see it in the one that attributed or that really drove that sale. Now, of course, it's debatable on which one actually drove the sale because that email may not have worked if it wasn't for that first click from AdWords, but it's having duplicate numbers can sort of cause a lot of frustration and sort of overinflated performance. So I'm increasingly recommending people just to change this to one for simplicity and make it easy. Now, if you do want to change this to every and you want to count those, I am going to show you the code required to prevent repeat visitors on that thank you page. But I'm increasingly recommending people change to one just to save any frustration and be more on the conservative side. Okay, so conversion window. Conversion window, 30 days is the default. That's typically what's done. If you have a really long sales cycle, you can change to 30 to 90 days or 60 days. Let's say you sold school furniture and school may click your ad, leave, get approval for the order, etc., and then come back and buy. Maybe you'd want to go to 90 days, but 30 days is the default. View through conversions, you can just ignore this. This is for a display network. I would just leave this at the default of 1 day. Category, this is obviously a purchase, so that is that. Include conversion, I just leave this at default. This is a little more advanced. So attribution model, by default, this will be set to last click. Now this is pretty important just concept to just quickly understand. Last click in that example I previously mentioned, the last click is what counts that sale. And in Google Analytics case, the last sort of organic click is what was counted, right? In AdWords, it's the last ad campaign. It's the last keyword, it's the last search term that's counted. So if you had multiple campaign types running, let's say you're Under Armour and you had a Google shopping campaign that I liked a t-shirt, I clicked a t-shirt, and then later that day decided I wanted to go and find that shirt to buy. Let's say I clicked on this brand campaign and scrolled through and bought that shirt. That sale would be attributed to the brand campaign, right? Would be attributed to this text ad campaign, even though I clicked on a shopping campaign earlier that day, and that's what really sort of led me to do to make the purchase. So last click is an important thing to understand. There are other models. I don't recommend playing with this. It's just at this stage, it's important to know that it's last click. The last ad they clicked on before getting the sale is what is going to be counted as driving that sale. So now that all these settings are set up, this is your Google tag. This is a pretty important thing right here. So I'm just going to copy all of this. Now there are instructions and everything here. If you have a developer, you work with a developer, you can email a developer and just have them do this. But for the most part, it's pretty easy. Just do it yourself. So here's the full tag. Okay, you can see in here the default conversion value is 1. Okay, that's understandable. And the default value is here is 1. Now you may have already realized this, but we need to change this so that we can allow AdWords to automatically pick up the total conversion value for the order when there's an order. So that is what we're going to do next. So I'm just going to say it's done. This is set up. So now we're going to go and add this to our site. So here's the back end of Shopify. So to add your conversion tracking tags, just go down here to setting, go to checkout. Now here are all of your just sort of default settings. You can just leave all of this the same, nothing you need to change here. Now your tags, including the AdWords conversion tracking code or tag that we've done, will be added here. But before we do that, we want to add in that custom code that I mentioned. We want to allow AdWords to see that specific dollar amount. So to add that, we're going to go back here and get that custom code. Okay, so this is the conversion tracking changes that we have to make. Okay, we've got the code. That's step one. Step two is we're going to change out this yellow item for this red one. Same with this one. Step three, change this yellow out to the red. Now step four is going to be actually adding specific code from Shopify to limit second access. So like I mentioned, if you're sending an email sort of letting them know the order's been shipped, they can track the order by going to this page. We don't want to count that second visit, the third visit, whatever, as a sale, because there's going to be AdWords tracking code on that. So if you did not select, the option of one, like I previously mentioned, and you selected every, then you do have to add this code in. So I'm just going to walk you through it. If you want, you can add it regardless, so you don't have any questions in the future on whether you selected the one or every with the conversion tracking. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So here's our base code. Like I said, we're going to change this first yellow line, which is here. We're going to change this one, the second yellow line, which is here. Okay. Now the default code is here. So I'm going to put this side by side. You can see it. Okay. Again, all this code is available online. You can just do Google search, find it, say Google AdWords conversion tracking. If you can't read it right here on the screen, but basically we just want to copy this, change. Of course, also you can just shoot me an email and I can email it to you as well. But we want to change this line here to this. So I'm just going to copy this, change that there, okay, and then I'm going to change this one, is value 1 to this, okay? That's it. It's as easy as that. So that is now done. So I'm going to copy this code and go back to Shopify here and paste that in, okay? That's it. So this tells me that, okay, this is the Google code for online order. Maybe you want to say for AdWords. So just, this is just a note field, so you can just add whatever you want in there. So that's it. Your AdWords conversion tag is added. You're done. You now can start recording. Once I hit save here, you can start recording the AdWords sales or sales from AdWords into AdWords. However, there's one thing else we want to do, which is that fourth step in the chart there. Within Shopify, you can add this additional script to only run the scripts on the first visit. So this will help if your thank you page has like order tracking information or order information, and you're sending an email to the customer to notify them with a link to go back and see the order information. This can really help eliminate those double conversions. So let's go back to Shopify and just paste this up above. Okay, so basically what we say here is that these scripts, we only want to run these scripts if this is the first visit. So that's it. So it's pretty simple. So now I'm going to hit save. So our scripts have been saved. Again, we have a script up here that says we only want to run the below scripts when the person visits for the very first time. Okay, here is our AdWords script. Let's just expand this a little bit. Here is our AdWords script, that or AdWords tag or AdWords conversion tracking code or whatever you want to call it. Here's a code that is going to push the order conversion tracking information to AdWords when the traffic is from AdWords. So again, we will track the actual order ID or order amount, excuse me, we'll track the actual order amount here, and we also will track it here. So that's pretty much it for the conversion tracking setup. I do recommend doing a test order when you have your shopping campaign set up. Click on your own ad, do a test order, make sure everything's tracking correctly so that there's no error, no confusion going forward. But that is it for conversion tracking setup. That concludes module 2.3. Next up would be 2.4, which would be about setting up your Google Merchant Center account. All right, thanks.